Hi, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. I'm going to try and keep it a little casual. We've had some great conversations just before this. The idea for this conversation and what STEM really is supposed to signify is sports is perhaps the most rapidly changing and evolving media entity or media play in this country and globally. I think streaming has impacted nothing more than how it's impacted sports globally. Of course, cricket in India is beyond a religion at this stage, but I think last year with the Olympics and with football viewership on the rise in India, the amount of IPs and the amount of incredible investment in sports infrastructure, broadcasting, and obviously then consumption has been incredible. And there's no one better than the five of you all here to speak to this. Each in your own fields have sort of pushed the boundaries, if I can say so, of sports and the way they're consumed and the way fans interact with one broadcasted sports, but then with sporting personalities and the intersection of brand, media, entertainment, and technology. Ravi bhai, we'll start with you. Ravi bhai needs no introduction. Of course, from being our favorite cricketer to our favorite commentator, and then obviously our favorite coach. I don't know if you all remember, but in the MCA there was that iconic drive with the Audi that happened in 1985. We've come a long way since then. You're now perhaps one of the leaders, thought leaders in the sports entertainment intersection space. You've got a new company, Sporting Beyond. You manage some of the most incredible Indian cricketers, in cricketing talent. You've probably yourself have been witnessing sports evolve firsthand, and not only witnessing but also been a catalyst of sports and entertainment and the intersection evolving in the country. What have your thoughts been in the recent past? You know, Indian cricket has evolved a lot, viewing has evolved a lot. Of course, we have, we have Jio Cinema sitting here with us, and that's been absolutely disruptive. But where's your headspace at? Where are we today? Where do you see further intersections between entertainment, technology, and sports coming into play?
Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being part of this. I think it's a fantastic initiative, Waves. You know, the reason I say it, because my life is a wave. You know, you get a 0, you create waves. You get 100, you create waves. So we've been riding waves right through our lives. Right? And I've seen this game evolve. And each one of the players here are part of it. To see where cricket has gone over the last 40, 45 years since I've been involved in the sport. And without these platforms, the game wouldn't have evolved the way it is. In my time, it was radio, it was Doordarshan. Today, the platforms are unbelievable. From where to where it's gone. Relationship with brands, it was only ads. It was logos. There was no brand association. There was no social media. You know, there was no podcasts. This is where it's going. And it's only going bigger and bigger. What it does is where, when you did something on the sporting field where, just to give you a number, 100 million watched, today, because of all these platforms that exist, it could be 700 million, 800 million, a billion, and going further. We are a country of 1.5 billion. We are young. 70% of the people are below the age of 30. So sport is something that drives them. And if you think it didn't drive them, it woke them up during COVID. It brought smiles on their faces when India played, wherever they played. Whatever sport, whether it was cricket, football, hockey, whatever. And when you perform, even bigger smiles. Even when you were in lockdown or quarantine or whatever. But why could they see it? Because of the platforms that exist. And today, the way it's going, it's simply fantastic. I mean, you mentioned Audi. You know, the brand association I have with them goes back 40 years to date. Started 10th of March, 1985. It's still there today. It's not just because you drove a car around the MCG. It's what's beyond that. Where that car is and where today's Audi sits, how it's evolved with technology, how it's evolved with the times, how it's evolved with competition. So my job is storytelling, reliving the past. At the same time, keeping an eye on the future as to where, the car is moving as compared to other automobiles going, in the world and the competition they face. So it's fantastic. And the game itself, what technology has done for the sport is unbelievable. I mean, today a player can go back and watch himself 100 times. There'll be enough replays showing what he's done right, what he's done wrong. There's technology there to go even more into detail, to tell you more about your opponent, to tell you more about yourself, to tell you more about your strengths, your weaknesses, to then take on opposition wherever it exists and kill them. India has won a lot of tournaments in the last 40 years, since we first won it in 1983. We made people dream, and there's Dream 11 here. Dream, set, go. They are also there. So you make people dream, you make people evolve, but you need the support. And it's like you had pads in your kit bag, you had a cricket bat in your kit bag. Media is part of the kit bag. Media and technology is like a helmet in your cricket bag. You jolly well embrace it. Get to know what it does. Get to know how it enhances you and builds you up. You get all these million fans wanting your autographs, your photographs, getting you into advertisements. Why? Because one game of yours, you get 100, is seen by that many number of people. So you jolly well embrace technology, AI, that's coming into play now, big time. And it's your benefit. It's for your benefit, it's for the team's benefit, and it's for the growth of the game at the end of it all.
We also have Prashant Khanna here, who's the head of product and technology sports at Jiostar. Thanks to him, or blame him for all of us being glued to our screens through meetings, through flights, through every waking minute of our life. I think the product and the service speaks for itself. What y'all have developed there has been absolutely incredible. I know personally how much I enjoyed watching the Olympics for the first time, because obviously it had happened 5 times before in my life or 10 times before, but for the first time the accessibility to each of the viewing platforms, I enjoyed that as much as I'm enjoying the way the IPL is streamed now with the multiple camera angles, the analytics. I think the depth of sport viewing goes beyond just broadcasting. It goes into longer format IPs. It goes into fandom being created through the way the product or the way you view it, right? Can you speak to something of that? Specifically, you can have a more general answer around STEM, but as well as this specifically.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Firstly, I don't want to offend my colleagues who work in product. My space is production and technology.
Okay,
so,
sorry.
That's to begin with. But what's really interesting is the entire intersection of sports, technology, entertainment, and media. Right? That goes so well in our space. It is effectively bringing connected spaces, bringing innovation, bringing immersiveness, bringing Ravi bhai spoke of AI and elements together that bring the fan at the center in front of everything. You spoke of Olympics, which is nobody. If you know Olympics, it's the toughest to watch anywhere. You don't know what sport is happening at what time, where. We were able to bring in Indian athletes at the forefront. You knew where they were showing up, how to access them. You had the understanding on the feeds that you were supposed to see. So all of that is quite exciting. We are putting fan at the front and center of it. It's creating sporting experiences into socio-cultural experiences. That's where people come together, enjoy them live or in your own space. OTT is giving us a platform today where your watching of cricket could be very different from mine, where your live experiences, the cameras that you want, the feed that you want, the commentary that you would want to listen to possibly, is creating it, one game that could serve millions of fans as million separate feeds that they want to experience. So it's absolutely unlimited for us. Today we go out in across 33 feeds that we deliver for an IPL, event that start from multi-language and, a different commentary, different visuals, different graphics. Analytics come into play, so you as a core fan might want something that's really heavy on data, whereas a social fan would want something that is a hangout feed, which is with creators and content, specialists that come in. And then, of course, we want to reach out to as many fans as we can. We have a social feed, that effectively is now doing, live sign language. That's a cohort that has never been addressed in the industry before for live sports. We have descriptive commentary that's going out to fans that are, finding it difficult in terms of visual, following the game. And those have just been fantastic. So I would say we have the capability and capacity to service every single fan in the way they want to be served. And in their service is what makes us, pinch ourselves every morning and believe that we're in a place of privilege. And as custodians of sport here, that's probably the most important thing every day as we go about doing the stuff that we're doing.
Incredible. Custodians for sure. You've got 300 million people signing in every other day to the platform. So I can only imagine what you're carrying with you. Nullah is here all the way from New York. Thank you for coming and visiting us. Nullah is a sports and media entrepreneur. You're the founder of Cedar Lane Capital, a private investment firm through which you own AFC Bournemouth with Michael B. Jordan, who right now is obviously having an amazing moment in the sun with Sinners, but has been a personal favorite actor of mine for the longest time, all the way from Creed to Black Panther. And I think Creed also is sort of sports and entertainment overlapping with each other. So I think you found something very interesting in a partnership there. You previously co-founded Kosmos Holding. You had acquired the Davis Cup and FC Andorra, both incredible, and you were one of the early founding partners of the Player Tribune, which brought together over 2,000 athletes to tell their stories. Now, this is very interesting. Of course, AFC Bournemouth, we want to hear a little bit about that and your venture into that and how you see entertainment and sports colliding with each other with team ownership and, the things that you're doing there. But you got 2,000 athletes to tell their stories firsthand. I think that's something that's really important, and I feel like that's something that India is growing into as we build more depth in our sport, is to hear the stories from the athletes themselves, right? And hear where they come from. A lot of them don't come from, privilege. They have to fight their way all the way up, as we've seen in Indian cricket time and again, and other Indian sports as well. Sorry, I know there's 2 or 3 questions in there where we're a little short on time, so we're trying to club things together, but could you speak a little bit about that, about what your experience has been with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, thanks for having me. It's my first time in Mumbai, and I've loved it so far, so I'm looking forward to coming back more as well. So, I think, first and foremost, just on a high level, I think the world today we live in is experience and content is so individualized. I think sports is one of the few remaining things that are truly shared and communal. Everyone experiences it together. So a lot of the technologies and experiences, including storytelling and content especially, allows us to bring fandom globally together. I think someone spoke earlier about obviously how cricket here may be experienced in the U.S. and hopefully American sports are experienced here. And it really brings the world together. And I think storytelling is a big part of that. Now, within storytelling, I think the Players Tribune, which I had the opportunity and fortune to work on early on, it really brought first-person narrative to athletes' stories, which is really unique at a time when, these are humans at the end of the day. And, exemplary humans, nonetheless, that, do Herculean things, but they're humans at the end of the day. And some of their personal stories off of the field, off of the pitch, are truly interesting and fascinating, and how they balance that. So it's one of the ways I think that sports brings the world together, and that unique storytelling through a first-person lens. And it reminds us how small the world truly is. So, sports overall, I'm very bullish on, and how it brings the world together. But I think storytelling, particularly in my experience through the Players Tribune, was one of those early movers in the space.
I watched your documentary, Match Day, was it called?
Yes, on Barcelona.
On Barcelona, with, I think it was co-produced with Gerard Piqué. And I think that was one of the first few pieces as well that to come out, which was such an immersive viewing experience that allowed you to see the behind the scenes of a team like Barcelona. And I think that stuff like that actually helped build fandom, and depth of fandom. So incredible for that. I'm going to circle back with a question in a second. We've got Vikrant here, who's the CMO of Dream 11, the world's largest fantasy sports platform. That's crazy. With over 250 million users. As someone who works in advertising quite a bit, I have to say I'm a huge admirer of everything that you and Harsh have built. Your newest commercials this year, I think, have been talk of the town. Your IPL commercials that you did have been talk of the town for everyone. I don't know if you saw those, Ravi bhai, but those were very funny. Y'all have been again at the forefront of building a different side of the attention business. I would consider sports, film, media, everything together, encompass it all within the attention business.
That's right.
You found a whole new side and you created a whole new industry for the country, which didn't exist previously, or at least didn't exist the way it does today.
Sure.
Where do you see STEM, as we've been trying to now own this acronym, where do you see STEM sort of converging within your industry?
Thanks, Dheer. Lovely to be here, and thanks for having me. So, as a digital-first brand and company, using technology as a backbone for everything that we've done at Dream 11 comes very naturally to us. I think the scale that we've reached right now, you mentioned the 250 million plus users, wouldn't have happened had we not been a sports tech brand at heart. So I think that has played a large role in not just the growth of Dream 11, but actually the way we have contributed to even driving fan engagement, in this case specifically, let's say for cricket or for lots of other sports as well. So I think there is this whole bit of, as we like to call, turning passive sports fans into active sports fans the moment they start playing fantasy sports. So we've seen that happen over the last 7-8 years, and thanks to the growth of Dream 11 and a lot of people playing fantasy sports and following their own either teams or leagues, and being a little more actively engaged in not only playing fantasy sports, but also following the sport overall in general. We have enough data to show us that the moment people start playing fantasy sports, it has a spillover effect on driving viewership, engagement, and lots of other, spillover effects that happen in terms of popularity of that sport. It naturally happens in cricket, but we've seen that happen in lots of other sports as well. The tech piece that you were referring to, one of the biggest enablers for us is actually our tech stack, which helps us handle this kind of scale. We have over 250 million users, as we spoke about, but a peak concurrency on the Dream 11 app can sometimes go in excess of 15 million users. Yeah, we are in the middle of IPL right now, and there's a golden hour of, let's say, 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. 7 p.m. is when the toss happens and when the lineups come out, and we would like to believe a lot of mobile phones start bleeping with the notification alert on the Dream 11 app that it's time to make your team or edit your team, and suddenly we'll see that spike happen. Yeah? Now that our ability to handle that spike of, let's say, 15 to 16 million concurrent users happens to thanks to the tech stack we are able to have. So that's a big sort of product feature, and our ability to handle that kind of scale, which happens thanks to technology. The other is also around personalization, customization. We have millions of users. All of them will come and play different kinds of contests or will follow a particular different event. Making it more seamless and immersive for them is something that obviously a lot of data analytics goes behind it to make sure that that experience happens. And then while it's primarily a fantasy sports app, there are lots of features, product features, which make it more like a sports content app in some ways. So you'll naturally get live scores. You'll get even text commentary, real-time updates of your fantasy points. There'll be tips from what we like to call as fantasy gurus who will recommend a particular team to you. And there'll be private chat groups that you can have. You can create private contests. Lineups, the moment they get announced, will get updated. So there's a lot of that immersive experience that happens thanks to all the tech product features that we build, which makes it, which goes back to the initial point of turning passive fans into active sports fans. Yeah. So I think there's that bit which has happened again more from a sports tech lens, which has not only led to the growth of Dream 11, but also, you know, the ecosystem that I was referring to. This becomes even more important for, you know, some of the tier 2, tier 3 sports and events. You know, everybody follows IPL, and there are more than, depending on what Prashant says, 500, 600 million people in the country now are actively consuming the IPL. But for smaller leagues and tournaments which probably don't get that platform in terms of fans following them, the moment it's featured on Dream 11, we suddenly see a greater level of interest in that particular sport or event, even if it might be cricket. So that's, I think, the other role that we have played in driving that sort of consumption. While we spoke a lot about the consumption on the product, I think the spillover benefit that I spoke about also then translates into marketing and advertising. As the CMO at Dream Sports, you know, I sort of have that bird's eye view on how that landscape has changed over the last few years, and that bit around sponsorships and advertising and using even external platforms, whether it's on a Google or a Meta, from the first click to the last click, and technology plays a great role in making sure that happens. And are we serving that kind of even advertising as content to those kind of cohorts and users, which is more personalized? All of that also happens thanks to technology. So I think all the examples that I spoke about hopefully paint a picture around what kind of role technology has played in not only just fantasy sports, but also how we are engaging with the sports fan.
Yeah, no, incredible. I think the usership that you have and the virality that you all have created within users and actual using of the product speaks for itself. We've got Dhaval here from London. Dhaval leads media and entertainment globally at Tata Communications. You were part of the founding media team at the company, and you've been instrumental in establishing cloud-powered and IP-enabled media and entertainment services in the industry. You work very closely on Formula One. We all know how much India loves Formula One now. Formula One, you've been working with Sky, with Star India and Vice Media. You've been a thought leader in the space. I've read some of your articles. They're incredible. Where would you say, you know, content owners can capitalize growth opportunities today? How is technology, entertainment, again, coming back to STEM, you know, I think it's all encompassing that way, you know, what we're discussing. Where do you see that intersection? Where do you see the next couple of years sort of playing out for you in your business?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Dheer, and pleasure to be here today. So I think Ravi Bhai, our living legend of Indian cricket, laid it out brilliantly at the start. Content is king. And as part of the content package, live sports is the soul of the entire journey. It not only has awakened us, it is a source of motivation, inspiration for billions of fans globally. So I'll give you some statistics, right? Because we look at a lot of data that sort of flows through global media industry. On an average consumer spends about 60 hours consuming content every week. 60. That is more than a working day, every day. And that is just an average consumer. This does not even include the super fans who would be on a fantasy game, would not include the super fans who will consume different types of commentary, and again then go to YouTube and watch videos of Ravi Shastri from before, having iconic moments. So with that kind of presence, this industry is only just getting started. And live sports is really the pinnacle of content. The industry spends about more than $100 billion in just acquiring sports rights. And the reason for this is because it drives and captivates people. As at a Tata Group and at Tata Communications, we are very privileged to work with, as Dee said, some of the best sporting federations in the world. So about 67% of all global sports, whether you're watching NFL in US or football in Mexico or baseball in Korea, definitely cricket over here or all of the motorsports in Europe, 67% of that is delivered by Tata Group. And if so, we are doing this in Mumbai. So if there is one thing that people in the audience can go home and say, go home to your families and say, whether it is a family watching football in Mexico, surfing in Brazil, or baseball in Korea, 2 out of 3 viewers are being supported by Tata Group. That's incredible scale, right? And that is something to be proud of. But also this shows you the transformation. Content is a part of our lives in a way that it has never been before. I think since 120 years ago, Moving Pictures Company was founded. And I think today we are living in a golden era where content is not just what you consume on the screen. It is part of our e-commerce experience. It is part of our different kinds of AR, VR, fantasy gaming that has sort of engineered its way into all of our lives. Technology plays a very crucial role in how content will exist in the next 10 to 15 years. In our view, today, most of the content we consume is sort of driven by a lot of innovation. You heard from Prashant that Jio as well, the way they have driven the broadcast product. But in our view, in the next 10 to 15 years, almost 80% of the content that we consume today and in the way we consume will be dramatically different. The types of content, the IP that exists will not be the IP that we consume today. And what I mean by that is, today we are still consuming cricket as we have known it, and a lot of us have watched it on linear TVs with antennas connected, with set-top boxes. But in the future, IP will be created and curated for the audience of the future. It will be dramatically different. It will be driven through digital mode of consumption that exists and will be created from here on. So now is the time to be a content creator, to be an IP creator, I would say, to actually innovate on types of content. How can you take a sport and create an IP that drives consumption in a meaningful manner? And that is not just a long form watching an actual match or an actual Formula 1 race or a MotoGP bike race or a tennis match. It will be around it. How can you involve people in the training associated with athletes preparing for that? There is so much focus. How can I learn? I mean, you mentioned Michael B. Jordan. How can I learn through the experience of a Michael B. Jordan preparing for a movie? And people are consuming that. And that is also meaningful content that is being driven. So I think going forward, technology is at the heart of this. I think the biggest impact that will be driven would be different forms of content and IP will be created. We will have a democratized access to content creators. Previously, if you had to give a commentary, you had to be in a studio of a Star or a Z or a Sky or an ESPN in New York. Today, you can give commentary to an event sitting from your household. That is a new form of career that did not exist just 4 or 5 years ago. That will be a biggest driver in sort of helping us create the content of the future. And finally, the mode in which we consume content is going to be dramatically different. Mobile phones, digital venues are going to be the future in which how we consume content, and finally how we interact with it. Data and different forms of content will be so dramatically different. In the future, you're going to sit and choose from 20 to 25 video feeds from the same sporting event. And you will choose, and in the same household. So maybe a mother is going to choose as a feed of a central batsman. The kid is going to choose a feed of a bowler because he or she wants to look at the bowling action. Somebody is going to focus at a fielder on the boundary line who is sort of focused on the next sort of event. So this is the kind of consumption that has just only gotten started. So we are looking at a dramatic transformation over the next couple of years, Dheer.
Ravi sir, I think, I would have loved to do a second round of questions, but they've asked us to move on. I have a quick question, not quick, well, I'd love to hear your thought on this because I think it would help encapsulate where we are today and where we were. You've seen cricket and you've seen brands interacting with cricketers, with yourself, of course, doing Coca-Cola commercials and early day Vimal commercials, which were all iconic, to multi-year contracts with Sachin Tendulkar and, of course, with the legend Mark Mascarenas. You've seen through this entire time where you've obviously been a catalyst to some of those deals. We've heard this from Sachin multiple times. the expansion of the media landscape and the sports and media landscape in India has been absolutely crazy. Today, now you manage one of India's biggest sports stars as well. You know, you'll do deals with him through his entire sporting thing. Where do you see it going from here? In the next 3 to 5 years, do you feel like where we've hit an inflection point and we're going to grow considerably from here? Do you think we're saturated and we've had enough and this is where it tapers off? And of course, you've already spoken about how technology plays in there, but where do you feel sort of consumption patterns are moving towards?
I think it's going to go bigger and bigger, you know, simply because of the visibility factor. You know, the platforms that are coming out every day. So earlier you would do an ad for a brand and you would be seen by X million. Today the platforms that exist give that same brand the viewership. It creates awareness that is unreal. They would have never dreamt of. And it's not just national, it's international. It's global. So the reason why the numbers increase, you know, it's not a sport where you need 50,000 people to make money. That's nothing. You can forget the number of people that come in. You can get all of them in free. What pays is the other platforms that bring it in, just like the IPL. I mean, gate receipts aren't important. It's the bucks that come in from other platforms. It sustains and allows other platforms of cricket, other facets of cricket to grow. You know, take for example me. I played as a cricketer. I did broadcasting. I did coaching. But today the fun part is content. As Dhaval said, content is bap. You know, you can't shortchange that. Is when I do television today, I'm walking down the street, I say, into the fence like a tracer bullet. It catches everybody's imagination. So I go through, I'm checking in, they say, hey, tracer bullet, can I have an autograph please, you know? Or Dhoni finishes off in style. That's captured, goes down for years. You call 100 or a double 100, the first man on the planet to get a double 100 in one-day cricket, Tendulkar. It'll be seen in different platforms for years. And then what caught my imagination now, what Dhaval said, you know, at home, there could be 20 different things you want to see. You want to see Bumrah's action. You want to see someone else, you know, batting in a certain way. Tomorrow there could be someone wanting to listen to commentary. Arey, iska sunna hai bhai, commentary, isne kya bola? You know, which captures, which allows us, gives us the motivation to raise the bar. Every time you go there, you want to raise the bar. It could be someone in the public eating an ice cream. That went viral. When I said, a big fellow is tucking into the cone, and that ice cream is disappearing at the rate of knots. That went viral. And that is because of the platforms that exist. There are reels, there are Instagram that are created. And then when you punch the numbers, 1.5 million, 2.5 million. You know, so it's bizarre. Where it's going, it's fantastic. If you're actually in the middle of it, you've seen it evolve, you're part of it, it's mind-boggling. And we're here to stay for that.
Thank you everyone for coming out, and we look forward to seeing all of you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.